It's Kyle here, and it's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan because we have a new animated series to talk about, Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord. The first two episodes of Season 1 have debuted, The Dark Revenge and Sinister Schemes. And so in this video, I'll be giving a review of those episodes, but also kind of just talking about overall feelings of the series in general and what my initial impressions are after the first two chapters of this new animated series. Going into this series, I was both excited, but also had somewhat muted expectations. I'm excited because I really love the Star Wars animation. Of course, most recently, Bad Batch was absolutely amazing. Some of the stuff they did in that series are some of my favorite things that Star Wars has done in recent years. Such amazing work. Of course, before that, you have Rebels and Clone Wars, which were mind-blowingly good. There is even some elements of Resistance I like, but you also have some cool stuff like the Tales of series, the Vision series. Star Wars animation just in general overall has a very high percentage of being awesome. So just in general, when they announced the new Star Wars animated series, I think after Bad Batch is what finally, I was kind of skeptical going into that. I was like, I don't know if I'm really that interested in this concept in a series, and it blew me away. So they kind of basically won me over to like, hey, whatever concept you want to do, I'm probably going to enjoy it. Very, very cool. So when they announced Maul, I was like, awesome. I'm sure that's going to be amazing. Why I said I had some muted expectations is if you kind of had me rank, stuff I was interested in possibly seeing being explored in an animated series. If you kind of listed possibilities and you put Maul there, I think Maul would have been kind of towards the bottom. Not because I don't find that character interesting. I really do. I think he's one of the more interesting characters that Star Wars animation has ever explored. It's just more like I felt like they've already explored him a lot, and there's some other characters, events, eras that haven't been as focused on in Star Wars animation that would have liked to have, got the spotlight before Maul got his own series. But that being said, I'm sure going into it, I was like, I'm sure this series will still be amazing. And the first two episodes did not disappoint. I really enjoyed them a lot, and I'm very interested and intrigued to see where this story goes as we go forward. Some initial impressions of the series overall after the first two episodes. One, I love the setting. The planet Janix is very, very cool. It's giving off a very cool film noir type vibe. Very much reminds me of, I know a lot of people have been mentioning Gotham, especially in the Christopher Nolan version, which I completely agree and I completely get. To me, it also reminds me a lot of the Blade Runner movies. That vibe you get from that planet where there's kind of that retro film noir vibe the entire time, but at the same time you're getting a very futuristic vibe because it's Star Wars and stuff like that. But everything's kind of grimy, dark, but then there's all these bright neon lights and just this really, again, I hate to say the vibe again. I just love the vibe of Janix. And like I said, I've watched the first two episodes 2 times now. I think the first time I was kind of thinking more about Gotham a lot. The second time I watched them through, it felt more and more Blade Runner-y to me. So I think there's a lot of comparisons you can make. I'm sure there's a lot of inspirations that the creators behind this show drew upon. Overall, I'm really loving this planet they're setting this series on. It's very, very visually appealing. I think the setting's interesting. Can make some for intriguing stories. In addition to those inspirations, like I said, like Batman and Blade Runner, and obviously a lot of film noir stuff. I think there's also some more modern crime movies that this kind of reminded me of. Heat, Den of Thieves, and there's many more in that genre where you're kind of getting the story from both sides, the criminals and the police. In some ways, even though I know this series is titled Maul, but at least in the 2 episodes, it doesn't really feel like Maul is the single main character of the series. It's unlike the Bad Batch, where the Bad Batch were the main characters. And this is more like, it feels like it's called Maul because Maul is driving the story of the series. But in reality, there's 2 sets of main characters. There's Maul and his crew, and there's Lawson and his partner Two Boots. And I think eventually we're going to have a Jedi on there as well that are kind of pursuing / fighting / opposing Maul's mission. So you have police, the criminals, the inspiration between countless movies, TV shows, books, and stuff like that. But like Heat and Den of Thieves were a couple more recent movies that kind of remind me of that just that general feeling and stuff like that. I typically enjoy those types of movies and TV shows and books and stuff like that. So I think that also has my hopes up for how I'll enjoy the rest of this season after these first 2 episodes. So this is not really a criticism of the first 2 episodes, but more just kind of curious how more casual Star Wars fans will react to how this series started. And that way, it kind of threw you right in the middle of the storyline. It wasn't like some Star Wars animated series where you kind of get an intro right away, like, hey, this is where we're at, this is the time period, this has just happened, this is what's going on, now let's start the story. This one you're thrown right in. So unless you had just been following Star Wars news and did some research ahead of time, you didn't really know too much about the characters out there. I think most people are like, ooh, Maul. But other than that, you're like, who's all these other people? Like, I think some more casual Star Wars fans might be confused about, like, where is this in the timeline again? Where does this relate to the movies? Maybe they've seen some of the animations. Maybe they've seen Bad Batch. Like, well, where is this in relation to the timeline of Bad Batch and stuff? So, again, not really a criticism. I think sometimes it is nice to watch a show that just kind of throws in. It's like, hey, you're going to learn as you go along. We're not going to, hold your hands too much and like spoon feed you the storyline. We're just going to tell the story we want to tell, and you'll learn kind of where this is and what's all involved as we go along. At the same time, I don't know if it would hurt too bad if maybe before you go on the intro or somewhere on, if you just flashed, what year this is in the timeline, or somebody making a casual reference to some big Star Wars event that even casual fans are like, oh, they're saying this just happened. Well, I kind of know where that relates in the timeline, so that gives me a feeling of what's going on at this point. So I'm just kind of curious. Like, I think diehard Star Wars fans will watch this, and obviously I think a lot of times diehard Star Wars fans have researched and been following all the news and kind of knows where a new show is set before it even starts. Where more of a casual fan, I'm like, oh, there's something on Disney Plus, looks like there's something new, let's check it out. And it's like, well, wait, where is this? What's going on? So I'm kind of curious if those fans are going to be very confused at the first 2 episodes, or they're just going to be like, all right, I'm just going to accept it and go along with the show. So that's kind of my overall impressions of the series in general. Now getting to the first 2 episodes, I'm just going to talk about them in general instead of trying to break them out in 2 parts. I will say I'm not sure if I'm a super big fan that they've decided they're going to release 2 episodes every week. I think occasionally it makes sense to do kind of a 2-part episode thing when the way the episodes, story-wise make sense. So I think for the debut, it might have made sense to do the first 2 episodes anyway. But going forward, the series is just not going to last that long for them doing 2 episodes a week. So I think I would honestly much prefer it if they did a single episode every week. But hey, we got 2 episodes a week. I guess we're going to have to live with it. So the opening heist for chapter 1 was very, very cool, and this is the one that definitely, I think, why a lot of people are drawing those comparisons to Batman, specifically The Dark Knight. Very much, kind of reminds you of the Joker heisting, and a lot of the truck chase and stuff like that, and The Dark Knight. A lot of that feels like that was inspiration for this initial bank heist / car chase. That was a very cool, well done, very quickly introduce you to this criminal crew that's a part of Maul, let you know they're very good at their job. They're not just, it's not just Maul and everybody that's following him are morons. Like his people know what they're doing, and they're very, very skilled. I mean, it makes you wonder quickly, what are they up to? What is the end goal of this? And eventually, through these tips, we learn, Maul, like always, he's after revenge. And he's starting small. He's going after the smaller crime lords who betrayed him, and he's going to use them to kind of work his way up. He's going to move up the hierarchy. Next up is the pie. He can slowly move up. And he tells his end goal, like always, is like he wants revenge on Sidious. But first, he wants revenge on all the crime lords who betrayed him years prior. We're introduced to our 2 Jedi characters, Devin and her master, Eco. I'm interested to learn more about these, and this is one thing I think a lot of casual fans will go like, "What? Who are these exactly? Are they both Jedi? Is one a Jedi and one's still a Padawan? How they've been staying on the run? Like, anytime you introduce new Jedi after Order 66, like, all right, how did these 2 survive? Very, very much get a quick feel of these 2 characters, where Eco is very much clinging to his Jedi beliefs. Even though they're trying to hide and he's trying to keep a low profile, He's still striving to, like, we need this, us trying to hide and survive doesn't give us permission not to be true to our beliefs, be a positive impact, believe in people helping each other, stuff like that. Where Devin, you can tell, has kind of been beat down and is more focused, like, we just need to survive. I just want to eat. So if that means I need to steal some food, that's okay. You know, you can tell she's beginning to lose her faith in what it means to be a Jedi, where he is not. Which quickly, I think everybody going to this series knew that, like, a big part of this was, like, Maul was after a new apprentice. You know, Maul loves an apprentice, loves a disillusioned young Jedi, and sees if he can bend them to his will. And everything through these 2 episodes where Devin and Maul are eventually kind of brought together, you're beginning to see, like, how Devin could be twisted to Maul's viewpoints, but also, like, you're hoping her master can kind of maybe bring her back. We'll see how that goes. But she's arrested after trying to steal some food, and that's how she ends up in the police station. One of the crime lords that Maul is after also gets arrested, ends up in the police station as well. Maul's already sensing Devin and this, you know, Jedi in the Force, and so when his forces raid the police station to get this crime lord he needs, at the same time he takes Devin, and which really confuses the police, because they're like, why was this random person who just had stole fruit from a fruit stand also taken by Maul and his forces when he was clearly after this crime lord? So in some ways it is a good piece of misdirection, not quite on purpose by Maul. But the attack on the police station was very intense. A lot of police officers and droids were killed in this. I think this series is definitely a lot more dark and violent right away than I think most Star Wars animated series. A lot of times, like stuff like The Bad Batch, Rebels, Clone Wars, eventually gets very dark and very violent. But a lot of times it starts off a little bit more, not quite that much, and it kind of ramps itself up. Maul starts off right away very dark, very violent. And if this one's going to ramp up, it is going to get very dark and very violent by the end of this series. Where Chapter 1 was more action, I think Chapter 2 we're getting a lot more of the character development, a lot more character interaction. We learn more about Lawson, his family situation. I should say Lawson and Two Boots is honestly maybe my favorite part of the series so far. I'm really loving them. I'm loving the fact that, you know, our main protagonist of this series is not a Force user, is not really connected to the public, or the rebels, I should say. It's just a police officer trying to do his job, trying to keep people safe. You can tell he's not really a fan of the Empire. He wants to keep the Empire away from, you know, he knows if they come in for this case, they're going to really clamp down on this planet. And he's trying to do a good job. Two Boots, his droid partner, is amazing. I love their interaction, their relationship. But just little tidbits about what Lawson's all about, his family situation. He clearly has a kid he loves a lot, but it's clearly him and his wife have split up. I'm not sure if they're fully divorced or what's going on there yet, but what was a happy family is no more. And you get a sense just in this episode, job has got in the way a lot, probably, when he briefly gets to go home and rest for a little bit, and he sees his son, and his son's like, oh, it was a long night. And it's clear, like, oh, Lawson clearly worked all day, all night, gets home, he's home for like a minute, and then he gets called immediately back. And you get in that instant, you go like, I think this is why him and his wife are no longer together. We don't often get to see like a family side of main Star Wars characters, so I'm enjoying this part. I'm kind of interested to see where they go with that, but really excited to see more Lawson and Two Boots. Also, Lawson, I think they're clearly setting up Lawson will be at some point probably teaming up with our Jedi Master Echo to try, or Eco, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to try to rescue or get Devin back. And I'm really interested to see how Lawson and a Jedi work together, and what's Lawson's view of the Jedi. He keeps on mentioning laser swords, so he's clearly aware of Jedi in some way, but the fact he calls them laser swords, probably not too familiar. So interested to see what his viewpoint is and how much he's bought into Imperial propaganda about the Jedi. Was interested to see that already this early in the show we're already getting Maul and the Pikes interacting. So I'm very interested to see how quickly up this criminal hierarchy Maul goes through in this first season of the series. It's seeming to progressing very, very quickly. I think we're going to see a lot of gangland warfare in this Star Wars series. So the dark underbelly of the Star Wars galaxy is definitely going to be explored in this series, and it's I'm interested about see where it's going to go. So overall, I really enjoyed the first 2 chapters of Maul Shadow Lord. Interested to see where it goes. There's some characters I'm really into. I'm loving the vibe, the feeling, the setting of it. I don't know if you compare it to, like, say, for example, the more recent show like Bad Batch. Like, if you force me to compare, like, hey, how do you compare the debut of the Bad Batch and Maul? I think I might slightly prefer the Bad Batch one, but I think that's mainly because there's a lot more characters, or the setting, I'm instantly kind of know where we're at. Where Maul, I'm still kind of getting a feel of vibe of this show, and I think by the time this series goes along, I might go back and like, oh, my opinion of the debut has went up because I've seen how the series develops as it goes forward. So let me know, what did you think of Maul Shadow Lord? Did you love the premiere? Were you a little not so much enthralled with it? What did you like? What did you not like? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate support. For Maul Shadow Lord, I plan the day after the episodes come out, I'll post my review noon, so that means on noon on Tuesdays, Eastern Standard Time, you should see my reviews of Maul Shadow Lord. So again, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoy Maul Shadow Lord as much as I am. I'll see you the next time, and may the Force be with you.